quite Nathan, Chris usually has another course up his sleeve.
Rhubarb crumble with custard.
Smothered in custard.
Yeah, you could put it like that, yeah. I could eat that. Sometimes I would have seconds after that, you know. Do you never get that feeling, though, of if you're eating something that you really like, that you want to eat more of it than maybe you need?
I'll eat it to the point where I feel like that's enough.
But I don't have that off switch.
Chris's binge behaviour is a big concern for Dr. Christian too, so he's decided shock tactics are needed to curb his appetite for self-destruction, and in particular his passion for pizza. During a typical week, Chris can get through 30 slices of his favourite fix, adding up to a colossal 8,340 calories. So Dr. Christian wants to show him the full horror of what's really lurking in his usual choice of a large meat feast.
Right, so, making a pizza, what do we start with?
The dough.
The dough, and look what I've got over here. Nice and thick. How do you get it all nice and crunchy when it comes out of the oven? Masses and masses of oil all around your bready pizza crust.
Next, the fat equivalent in pure lard, which goes into the base, the meat and the cheese toppings.
So there's about half a block of animal fat.
Now sugar, which is added to the tomato sauce.
18 3/4 teaspoons of sugar in your one pizza. That's not all. 3 teaspoons of salt. That's about 15 grams. Salt tends to put people's blood pressure up. How's your blood pressure?
High.
Ah, funny that.
It's quite a shock, yeah.
Are you proud of what we've made there?
Absolutely not.
This pizza contains 50 grams of saturated fat, so Chris is getting nearly double the daily recommended amount from one meal alone. Dr. Christian wants to make sure he understands the strain he's putting on his body.
Nice picky up there for you. What might all this yellow, shiny stuff be?
Fat.
Fat. And within all that fat, somewhere, is a blood vessel. Nice round blood vessel. But there's something not quite right about that blood vessel, is there? It's called an atheroma. It's a result of having too much cholesterol and fat circulating around your body.
Atheromas narrow the arteries and can reduce blood flow to major organs, leading to chest pains and angina, and could eventually trigger a heart attack. Using a rubber artery, Dr. Christian wants Chris to really appreciate what a fat-filled diet looks like on the inside.
This is a diseased blood vessel that has been slowly, over time, blocked off because somebody liked their pizzas too much. That is pretty much what it looks like. It's a sort of gruel-like, oily, fatty, grainy substance. Not really very pleasant, is it?
Like sausage, yeah, disgusting.
It's this stuff here that's going to kill you. Fancy pizza?
No. That was really scary, actually, because I could feel that those kind of things were happening inside me, and it worries me that I'm on borrowed time, almost.
Coming up, Chris loses patience with Nathan's excuses.
He made out like he had 2 stomachs. I think he's a cow.
Our eating disorder sufferers reveal how illness can lead to a distorted view of the body.
I just feel my arms are, like, really fat at the top, and I don't know, I just hate them.
And Nathan reaches breaking point.
Oh.
Supersize binge eater Chris and diet-dodging Nathan are coming to the end of their first day of swapping meals to shock them into seeing how unhealthy their portions really are. And no sooner has Nathan digested Chris's late afternoon snack of crisps, chocolate and cola than it's time for dinner.
Oh, yeah?
And one of Chris's massive meaty pizzas.
Definitely enough there.
Oh, and a double dose of garlic bread on the side, while Chris is presented with Nathan's daily dinner of packet pasta and sauce.
So could you eat all this?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, and some.
Really?
I'd eat the whole pizza and then have some, yeah, aside as well.
It was huge. The pizza itself was actually huge. A mass of meat. I was actually quite scared at that time. I think there's more grease in that than I've got in hair products. And I'm wearing a lot, let me tell you.
I wouldn't look at it, I'd just eat it. When I'm eating, I go into this sort of frenzy where it's just, what am I eating next?
For me, I've got to learn how to look after myself, cook for myself, other things like that. And for you, you've got to make sure you sort of portion your food out realistically and not just because you feel like eating that much.
But Chris does seem to be making progress.
I'm already starting to feel a bit hungry again, as if I need something else. But I actually can feel that that's a head hunger rather than a physical hunger. Yeah, it's good that I can recognise the difference.
Last mouthful and that's it.
Yeah.
To say that Chris could eat one of them pizzas 2 to 3 times a week, it's a little bit disgusting, really.
Seeing Nathan eating my favourite thing was quite difficult, but also having had that little session with Christian, it was much easier, actually, to keep away from the craving. Eventually, the craving does subside.
As day 2 dawns for our diet-swapping duo, any hopes Chris might have of a big breakfast are soon dashed.
Morning.
Morning.
Your breakfast?
By more mismatched portions of cereal.
I would usually probably have another bowl as well.
Oh, right, OK. Oh, wow. I've never eaten this amount of cereal in the morning.
I would probably eat 2 bowls. I'd quite easily eat 3 sometimes, you know. And it's just greed. You know, you're just eating for the sake of eating, not because you're hungry anymore. Before breakfast, I was feeling a bit moody, and I think it did lift my spirits, actually. Just the first mouthful, I was like, yes. I wouldn't have thought that smaller bowl could actually give me a bit of energy. It's already given me a bit of a buzz, yeah.
Before their next meal, Dr. Christian has asked Chris and Nathan to look over some old photos to reflect on the impact their unhealthy habits have had.
So, you know, this one isn't too long ago, actually. I was about 20. I got asked to do a competition in a nightclub. All the rest of the guys that were getting undressed were really muscly. It did make me feel so self-conscious and, like, paranoid as to were they laughing at me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So this one, probably 16. I think I look quite good there, actually.
Yeah.
Quite like looking at myself there. I already had this big fixation on food, and I was worried that I was going to get bigger. So this is where the big change happened. At 24, 25, I was travelling abroad a lot with my job. I was eating all convenience food, so it was always takeaways. And I think I put about 7 or 8 stone on. That's actually like a major difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I didn't notice it, though. I mean, I obviously knew I was eating too much. And looking back, it's quite a shock for me as well. I think it is quite a poignant moment, actually, because you don't necessarily see yourself in that way until you see it in a photo. It's made another nail in my head to say, this isn't what you want to be, Chris.
And Chris gets a further push, courtesy of a letter of support from Mum Susan.
Dear Chris, I want you to know how proud I am that you have admitted your addiction to food. Grab this opportunity to change your appearance so that your body reflects your amazing personality. Don't treat it as a one-off, but as a change for a lifetime. And remember, I will always be here for you, with lots and lots of love, Mum. It's really important to me to have my family behind me, and I think when I get home, I will be completely motivated to lose weight. I've got everyone behind me, I've got all the things in place now. Just need to get on and do it.
Over the course of the series, 6 people have been sharing their very personal experiences of life with an eating disorder. All of them have suffered to some degree with body dysmorphia, a form of crippling, distorted self-image which often drives conditions like anorexia and bulimia.
Everybody else around me could see how thin I was getting, but I just couldn't see it myself. Like, every time I looked in the mirror, I could see was things to pull and more weight to lose.
1 in 4 of us aren't happy with what we see in the mirror, but for the estimated 620,000 people in the UK with body dysmorphia, their view of themselves is skewed by an obsessive and irrational belief that they are ugly or flawed.
I just feel my arms are like really fat at the top, and I don't know, I just hate them, like I've always hated them.
This warped thinking can affect anyone, but for eating disorder sufferers, it means they can feel they are never thin enough.
People with eating disorders often have a distorted body image, and despite being extraordinarily thin, see themselves as fat.
I find it difficult to see myself in a true light. There are times when I look in the mirror and I can see how thin I am, and I think, gosh, Ellie, you need to put more weight on. I can see all your bones or your sinews. But then there are other times when all I see is flab and rolls and curves. It just gets me so down.
It's a very emotional situation because you see your daughter wasting away and you are powerless to do anything about it.
this obsession with how one looks in the mirror can and does drive people to the extreme.
I tend to look in the mirror quite a lot. I tend to only fixate on points that I'd like to change. It makes me feel like I need to eat less and purge more because I just feel like I need to lose more weight to make it less apparent.
20-year-old Lucy suffers from bulimia with anorexic tendencies. Her body dysmorphia drove her obsession with her weight.
If I couldn't get my hands around my thigh or I couldn't measure my waist to a certain length, it was again binge and purge to punish myself for not being what I wanted.
Now in recovery, part of her treatment has focused on addressing her negative self-image with a mirror exposure session.
Focus on a hot spot. Tell me what you're observing.
Like this bit of my legs, like this lower bit, the way that like the knees go in this way and then out.
So we're being quite judgmental here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah? They see thin celebrities and they see that as happiness and success. So this is why we've set up a body image workshop so that we can start to address the concerns around weight and shape.
The more that I look at them, the more I think, well, actually, they're not that bad. They could be worse.
That's brilliant. You've done really, really well.
I need to get on with life and just enjoy myself and love myself for who I am rather than what I look like.
36-year-old Emma Paul